Hello and welcome back to Lord of the Collections. We are back after a bit of a hiatus. I'm your host, Tyler Macklem, and I'm joined by Adam, aka Aloran the Gray, and his Instagram, I think, is Collecting Arta,
Yep.
and Mike Shea, Middle Earth Fan PA, Mike Shea Props. Find him on Instagram, doing some very cool things on there. You guys might have recognized the both of them. They've been on the show before, but it's been a while, so I thought I'd ask them back. So today we are talking about Weta's newest release, Edoras. Uh, a long time coming, and we're gonna just kind of talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and um, some polarizing opinions. Maybe, it's been almost over 20 years, I think, since Weta has visited Edoras. We got the old sideshow Weta Golden Hall, and then it was 20 years that we've had to wait for this new version. And so, what did you guys think of? We'll start with the limited edition one. What did you guys think of that?
I really I liked it. I'll just be frank. I pre-ordered it. I already have it on order. I I love that. I love the details on it. I love the paint on it. The colors really pop for me. That golden but very rustic sort of simple Rohirrim style that was in these movies. I will say I was maybe a bit disappointed and initially that we didn't get the full hill. I think a lot of folks, a lot of collectors maybe felt similarly. I could see it on the forums like, hey, why are they only giving us the top of Mount Sunday? And it's valid. It's a valid question. I personally, I've never had the Golden Hall from Sideshow Weta. So this really struck a chord with me. I'm really excited for it. Um, the little bit of disappointment I might have had kind of went away fairly quickly, and I love that it comes with um, the option to just get the Golden Hall as
Right.
opposed to the limited edition. That's a really nice idea.
What did you think, Mike?
See, I'm happy. I do have the original sideshow one, and I'm happy that this one has a ton of color in it. I think the other one, I think a lot of the older sideshow pieces were all plagued with like monotone colors.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking over to the side. If you see me glance, I have my tablet off to the side, and you could see like greens, you could see browns, you could see tans. I mean, they've really spent their time. I like
Right.
that they have the Royal Stables in there because I just got Kyle's piece, so it would like tie everything together.
Yep.
Um,
Right.
and I'm not too mad that they didn't go further down the hill. Um, just because I want there to be somewhat of a size to the hall itself.
Yep.
I think like if they stayed within the same footprint, but they gave you more space, they just have to make the pieces smaller and smaller and smaller. Um, would I like a bigger piece? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm really liking all of these kind of do-overs on these environments. And I made a mental I tried to switch myself to environments only about a year ago, and
Oh yeah. How's
these
that going?
classic series sales are making me fail pretty good at it. um, I like it. I went around the pictures a dozen times. I did also order it. I was pre-ordered pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm just excited to see what they're gonna do next after this.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah, I was similar in the same camp as Adam. I kind of was hoping for the whole kind of Mount Sunday and the rest of the city. But as I looked at it, it's a nice compromise between getting a good chunk of the city and the Palisade and getting details like Mike said, like
Yeah.
it's nice that the Golden Hall, like I can see the details on it. I can see the sunburst motif on the front of the hall there, Whereas if we had gotten the whole city, I don't know, that might have just been a golden blob, you know,
True.
at the scale needed. So I do think it's a nice compromise between adding more of the city and details, and somebody pointed out too that this is the set they built. Like everything else is CGI or
Mhm.
not included. But what we get in this environment is basically they built for the films. So
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that is kind of cool too, you know. Um, I love that the rock on it especially looks fantastic. You know, I've said before, nobody does rock work better than Weta. They have some crazy voodoo secrets down there in
Mhm.
Wellington, but like if
They've
you
had a lot of
compare,
practice.
they've had a lot of practice. What was it? Sean Astin and Elijah said half their time on rings was just rocks.
Just rock.
So they know their rock, and nobody does it better. And the rock work I thought on Mount Sunday here looks fantastic.
What do you guys think? You know, I know it's like it's almost like split 50-50. Some people like LEDs in the environment, some people don't because it raises the cost. I have the full size bag end, the most recent one. I didn't unopen it, but I have friends who did. I like the fact that you were able to kick that little door open and kind of see inside.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't have minded to be able to see inside the hall. I didn't know if
right.
it's just too small of a scale, but I mean, the bag end front door was awfully small as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you guys have gone for something like that, or would you think it just pushed the price over? Because I didn't think 799 was that too bad.
Not bad.
Um, it was kind of comparable to Grey Havens, but it does feel if you compare it to Grey Havens, I
Mhm.
think it's a similar size, but a lot less kind of buildings and detail in that sense. So
Mm,
you could make the argument that maybe it's a little bit either Grey Havens was a really good deal or this one's a little bit overpriced,
Sure.
depending on your view of it. As far as the LEDs, I like them in when they make sense. They made a
Yeah.
lot of sense in Bag End and it reminds me of kind of like, well, it's Christmas season right now and it reminds me of those nativity scenes, the flickering lights in Bag End
mhm.
and I find I use it. I don't ever plug in my Helm's Deep one. Like I just
Neither do
never
I.
do.
Yeah.
Um, and it
To
would have
be
been
fair, I
cool,
don't
like,
plug in Minas Morgul either.
yeah.
No.
And
It's a
that's the one
beautiful
that makes
piece, but
the most
Mhm.
sense to have
yeah,
Ellie. Um, I do think it would have been kind of cool if you could have taken like the roof off of the Golden Hall to see inside. What kind of
Yeah.
complications that would have added, I don't know, but I do think that would have been a kind of a neat touch. But at
kind of like that
$800,
Elrond observatory from the Hobbit piece, where you could take the lid off and see
yeah,
inside.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that would have done for the cost. I mean, at $800, it was already like that's what as much as
Pushing
Helm's
it.
Deep was, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And so I like LEDs where they make sense. When they don't make sense, it just feels like, well, I could have saved a bit on this without
Yep.
those. No.
Right.
So, but I do think it would have been cool. Is there
Yeah.
anything you guys didn't really like about the environment? And I
Uh,
guess we kind of mentioned less, not a whole lot of the city or not having the whole city, but
for me, that might be the only small negative.
right.
It's really quite beautiful. The details they've if that can be replicated from the production, like the prototype here into the production piece, I think they've got a real winner.
Mhm.
Um, and with the new technology, it seems like they've got, especially if you look at the Gray Havens, I think it's going to be pretty comparable. I don't really have anything negative to say. I'm kind of like you, Tyler. I wish we could see inside the hall somehow, but I don't know how that would have really worked.
Right.
But it's really everything I could nitpick about it is just that it's a nitpick. It's not really a detractor for me.
The Yeah, I don't really have any, like other than it would have been nice having more of the city, but like we said, this
Mhm.
is a nice compromise and you kind of get some of the key buildings from
Yeah,
Edoras. I feel like, there's the stables, there's see if I can find a better picture. We get the main stables of
that bell
Edoras.
tower.
We get that bell
Even
tower
those,
where you get the Rohirrim. You know, that guy, he's silhouetted hitting that bell. You
Don't,
know,
yeah,
we get some of the palisade,
yeah,
where they ride up and so they said in the promotional video, the one house where Aragorn's sitting on when the beacons are lit and he sees, we get that. So I feel like the key parts of Edoras are here, you know.
mhm.
And
yeah,
so and maybe that's because it's basically a replica of the set. It is, and perhaps that's why, but
yeah. Most of the
but
places we saw in Edoras, it's all right there.
yeah. And like I do like especially the grass, like, and I hope that translates to the production piece, just the details they've captured, and like
Hmm.
the little footpaths we see where, which would develop in a city like that.
Yeah.
There's even like a cobblestone walkway down the middle of the environment. And when
Yeah,
you're zoomed in like this, it seems big, but when we get the actual environment, I mean, it's going to be
tiny.
unbelievably small to capture all that little detail and then to
Yeah.
have the shading correct. Like you
Hmm.
said, I do hope that the paint translates from this to the final production piece.
Hmm.
Hmm. Agreed.
So let's talk about the alternate one, the Golden Hall. I feel like this one might be a little bit more controversial to perhaps some longtime collectors,
Yeah.
where, so I have the Sideshow Weta piece and you do as well, Mike, and
Mhm.
and it doesn't really bother me that they've brought this out. I think as a newer collector, I can sympathize with people who have a bit of a hard time finding some things, hence my campaign for Minas Tirith.
Hmm.
But at the other time, I can see how some collectors might be kind of, well, this kind of ruins the collectability of my Sideshow Weta Golden Hall, and it's about the same price as what it's going for on eBay. So it's like, if you're looking for one, why would you buy the Sideshow Weta one other than the nostalgia factor of the artist who worked on the films worked on
Sure.
that one? Because to me, this one looks about better in every way.
Hmm.
The rock
I
looks
agree with
better.
that.
It's more
Yeah.
vibrant. The Golden Hall looks better. So it's a complete upgrade, but it's exactly the same as the the Sideshow Weta one. And if I were to show the Sideshow Weta one to my fiance and then this one, she'd say, well, they're the same thing. Like she wouldn't notice the difference.
I
It's
think
only a
that's the rub with some people. What is going to be the rub is
yeah.
like you don't mind if you take Helm's Deep and go bigger and then show the case. Show like make it a little different.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the wall's not blown up, you know. And like the limited edition version, that's significantly different. That I don't,
Mm,
nobody's bothered by that, I think. But this one, I almost would have liked to have seen them go the opposite route where, and I know why they did this. It's the same scale as the limited edition Edoras, right?
Yeah.
That way they don't have to do the molds and stuff.
Hmm.
But I would have liked to see them go bigger. Like give me like an 8-inch long golden hall, like a really big one, like double the size of the Sideshow Weta one. Because then you still kind of keep that uniqueness of the Sideshow Weta piece. But if
Hmm.
you just really like the golden hall and you don't really want the rest of Edoras, and to keep the uniqueness of the Sideshow Weta one, make it really big, and
Yeah.
then you could open the lid and really, like, you really capture a lot of those details. I understand why they did it this way, but it would have been kind of cool to see that. But
I
I'm
mean, if you
curious.
look back at some of our older videos too, the ones that I've watched, there's been several times where they've asked to have two versions, right? Bilbo and Bag End, and then just Bilbo at his table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This and then this little piece, because not everybody can dish out, seven or by the time shipping and fees and all that other stuff is $1,000 for a statue every time a statue comes out,
Right.
but
yeah,
still have a little piece of it, or just not physically having the footprint to be able to store all these big statues, and maybe just you're out of room or you don't have that much room to begin with,
Yeah.
yeah,
and just want to keep a little bit of everything in smaller format.
Yep.
yeah. And that's where this piece does definitely excel. If you don't have the space or the budget, but
Mhm.
you still want to collect, it's a fantastic price, I
Yeah.
think, for um
Well,
and
is it, or have they have they
yeah, have we
have
just
they
been
groomed
trained?
us?
Yeah.
They groomed us to feel that a $200
Yeah, this is
statue is such a
great.
good deal. Just get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Well,
they
clearly,
trained
because
us
I thought it
well.
was a good price, I must. Good point, Mike.
Great point. No, I don't. Like I said, I don't have the sideshow Weta piece, but this is. I think for newer collectors who just started collecting in the last 5, 10 years, this is a pretty great way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gorgeous, and it does pop. I feel a lot more than the old piece from what I've seen in photos.
it
Uh,
definitely does. Yeah.
yeah, it great alternative, and I can understand folks being a little agitated that it might lessen the collectability of their older piece. I can sympathize, but we got to move forward a little bit, and I don't think it'll hurt it that much.
But
No,
that's
because
also
yeah,
happening. That feels like it's happening every day in this genre. You know what I mean? Whether it be the 1-on-1 scale weapons, like I'm getting beat up every day on that stuff. Release this, re-release this.
Or,
And we went hunting and hunting and hunting for years to get a certain piece, and then they,
yeah.
hey,
Now they
release a new
just
one. So I was sore or sour on that for a little bit. Now I just
yeah,
accept it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, it
yeah,
makes sense.
and that could be a whole episode on like I don't know, you want to call it the State of the Union of collecting, where
Hmm.
the debate of re-releasing old pieces or similar pieces, revisiting them, and what that does to the long-term health of collecting and the hobby. We could discuss that for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
Or a part two to your beginner collectors, just beware if you
Yeah.
find a piece
yeah,
that's rare, or whatever it is, don't necessarily go and remortgage the house on it, because there's a good chance in the next 5-10 years that you're gonna be able to get a similar version of that.
yeah,
Yes. Especially or like with United Color, I tell all new collectors, do not go hunting for a rare United Color piece because the chances are it'll come back.
yeah.
And um, you know, in terms of collect like resellability too, I'm not entirely sure this hurts the Golden Hall value from the old one, just because that one wasn't really selling for a whole lot anyways, it
Right.
Sure.
it hovers around the 200. You can get them for less. I think I got mine for $50. It was slightly broken, but I
Hmm.
fixed it. And so it's not like the Golden Hall was going for a lot of money
Sure.
on the secondary market 20 years later anyway. It's not like, say, the Stone Trolls or
Yeah.
or Minas Tirith was, or some of
The
those older,
Balrog.
like the
Yeah.
the Golden Hall was a pretty fairly obtainable piece even 20 years later. So I don't really think this will hurt it, but I can understand collectors who might feel differently.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'll go off topic a little. I hope that Weta keeps going, and I wouldn't be mad if they did Rivendell over.
No, I wouldn't be mad at all.
I'd be a little bitter if they redid Barad-dûr, because that was sold as a limited edition piece.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That I
I
feel.
Minas Tirith has set the precedent that open editions are free game, right? Like they're up for
Mhm.
like that precedent has been set that, okay, we can revisit an open edition or re-release it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like the Argonath I felt it was different enough that it didn't ruffle too many feathers. And I previously just bought the old one, and then a couple of months later the new one comes out, right? And I
Yeah.
wasn't even that bugged about it. I just thought what a great collectible.
Yeah.
So I've said this on the forum, but I could see them revisiting um Rivendell, especially if the Hunt for Gollum, like when you read the book for the Hunt of Gollum, the story of that takes place during the Council of Elrond, right? That's where and so I could see if they go that route in the film where a lot of that exposition is happening at the Council of Elrond, I
Yeah.
could see them revisiting or Rivendell to cash in on the excitement of that film.
Yeah.
That and next year, it'll be the 25th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring, and that could also give them the reason they need to revisit Rivendell, and that's one where I feel like they could, like, the old one doesn't include the actual council where Elrond's council takes the area. It
Nope.
doesn't
Right.
include that. And that's when I think with the advancements in 3D printing and having LEDs, it could
Mhm.
look phenomenal. Like
Oh
if you
yeah.
think the Grey Havens look good, a Rivendell with that level of detail and LEDs would look fantastic.
Gorgeous.
And I have the original and I wouldn't be mad. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
me. You know what I
Same.
mean? I have it. I would look at the two of them separately.
Hmm.
I
Right.
would keep my original and I would get the new one, most likely.
Agreed.
And I've done that with all of the Argonath, Helm's Deep. If I had the little bag end, I would have done the same thing just because I kind of like seeing both of them.
Yeah.
So,
Selfishly, I would like a larger prancing pony because I don't have the original and I
oh
know what
yeah,
they're going for.
I'm right there with you. I would love a
yeah,
prancing pony.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I could see them doing that one too.
Hmm.
Um, and that is another one that could benefit, I think, from LEDs. There's some to add that to and some not to. And the prancing pony would be another one. It's so tiny that
Yeah.
you get it a little bigger, you put some LEDs so it looks like there's guests in the inn there,
Yeah.
and that would be another great one, I think, to, you know, there's some collectors I'm sure that are just gnawing their teeth at the idea of that because that's their retirement funds. But
100%. But if you haven't seen one in person, I went to when I was the first time I went to Ben's house and got to see his collection. I saw it and I'm like, that's it. Like
Mhm.
you see the pictures and everybody takes these close up pictures and stuff, and you just assume in your head that it's
The
semi
size.
decent. It's that's a
It's
tiny
so tiny.
environment
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the money that it gets.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And then I had a similar experience with the Argonath, because the collectible one, the first one, it's the same as size as the bookends, right?
Hmm.
And I got a good deal at the time for it, but it was still, fairly expensive. I think I paid $800 for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I got it, I did have a bit of buyer's remorse because like this thing's so tiny
Oh.
and I paid so much for it, and there's really not a whole lot here. And then the new one comes out about 4 or 5 months later, almost the same price, and it's like 5 times the
Much
size.
bigger. Yeah.
So I could see them revisiting Rivendell, the pony, maybe even Weathertop.
Weathertop would be great.
Yeah.
I like my Weather, the old one. I do like
Hmm.
it. It's quite, but it doesn't have a lot of detail. Like when you get into like it would be great to see a bigger one with where you could actually make out the details on some of those old statues in the yard there. Kind of
Right.
like how Helm Hammerhand statue on Helm's Deep, you can actually kind of, it's not a blob, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some detail there.
There's some definition there.
And
We've had
have
that
it,
conversation in the past before about Helm's Deep itself. The Helm's Deep environment,
yeah.
that's underrated. It's like sorely underrated. People see that from a distance or a picture, and it just looks
Mhm.
like a round rock.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean? I think that today could be done so much better. LEDs down the middle, glowing lava, like everything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Right. And the be cool to have a little campfire that the hobbits have on Weathertop. Like
Yeah.
it's just one LED, right?
Yeah.
But that would be
Yeah.
pretty cool to see that kind of flickering, and I think there's a lot of options for Weta to do to revisit locations, and I know that's not necessarily the some long-term collectors want to hear that, but there's only so many locations in Middle Earth that people want to have on in their collection, like there's the hardcore collectors that would buy the Doors of the Dead, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But most I would buy it, we would all buy it, but
Yeah.
how well would that sell? You
Hmm.
in from Weta's point of view, it's why they don't do Denethor, right? Because nobody likes, and so the idea of some of these locations, I think Weta's like, wow, or we could do Rivendell again and make some money.
Sure.
You know, And
Still waiting
so,
on Karathungal.
yeah, Carathungal is another one they can do, and I think they could do a fantastic job of that. The Kyle custom one is great, but
Yeah,
it'd be cool to see what Weta does, and if it's a different size, you know.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I
so
was a little worried at first when I saw them release the blueprint for the stables as I was getting Kyle's
oh
piece.
yeah,
I think we
yeah,
were all a little
Oh,
like,
that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, Kyle.
yeah. Well, he also quit making. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember. He also had started on Edoras,
Yeah.
and he had three different kind of prototypes, very roughly mocked up on a CAD program,
Hmm.
and one of them is basically the one we got from Weta here.
Yeah.
Uh, if you go back and check the forum, and
Grey
uh,
Havens as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Grey Havens.
So just check what Kyle's doing, and then really see. Well,
Oh,
okay,
Weta's making it.
Weta's probably gonna do that.
I don't know. Weta hasn't done Samath Naur yet, so
No, they haven't. And to keep with I've pestered Kyle about this, and if Kyle's watching, I would love to get Dunharrow, with
yeah,
the switchback that
yeah,
Elrond rides up and the Past of the Dead and the
yeah.
camp on the top. I think that would be a really similar to the Gates of Erebor environment, what it did. Something
Yeah,
about that size. I think that would make a very cool environment.
that'd
And
be
that's
neat.
another
Yeah.
another one where I don't know if Weta would touch that, but the perfect for a custom piece. And
That's
so
one I don't have. I regret not getting that, the Gates to Airbor, and that's a
it
little harder
goes
to find out.
Me
for
too.
too
That's hard
much
to
now.
find.
Yeah,
Too
Yeah.
much.
that and Smog's Bust. I'm missing Smog's Bust, and
Ah,
that's another one that's
Really
yeah,
out of
nice.
my
it's big
reach.
bucks now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Balrog one. Those busts have the Fell Beast, Smog, and the Balrog. Big bucks
Hmm.
now for those ones compared to what they retailed for at least. So out of 10, what would you guys rate Edoras?
Oh gosh, for myself, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Yeah, I really love it. I've been looking forward to some version of Edoras for a long time, and I'm so glad to have it on order. I can't wait for it to get here.
Solid, good. I agree. I would give it a 9. Um, I would give it a 10 if it had the whole city and it was that scale, but
Sure. Yeah.
but I think it's a great piece, great details, and I'm not gonna say if I'd order it in case my fiance is watching. So, um, fantastic
You
piece.
won it.
I want it. There we go. Yeah.
You won it.
I won the CastleCon sweepstakes, and
I'm with you guys. I'd do like an 8 or 9 pen and final images. You know what I mean? We always like the images that we see here, as
mhm.
long as it's not plagued with any kind of, you know, I think they've been doing really good with the environments.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've really been knocking them out lately. So
Hmm.
I judge it based on it wasn't hard to hit buy. You
yeah,
know, like I just went right in, I saw it, and, all right, good order.
Yeah. Didn't have to think too much.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't a struggle. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I think part of that too is just it's one of the like if you talk to people who've been to New Zealand, they'll all mention Mount Sunday.
Yeah.
What a great place that was to visit, and how much they enjoyed it, and it's just an iconic location in the films, Edoras, and
Yeah.
even the cast talk about how much they appreciated the set there and just how real it felt,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of a no-brainer. It's one of those locations you want in your collection where, I really hummed and hawed about the Grey Havens just because it's really not featured all that much it's a beautiful looking environment, but it wasn't one I was sure I needed just
Yeah.
because the amount of screen time it gets and so, but I didn't have any of that with Edoras here. It was like, wow, that's great. And I'm really happy they finally did that, so. Well, thanks guys for sharing your thoughts on it, and I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas,
Me too.
and we will perhaps see you in the new year, and we'll do a year in review, or we'll do what we want in 2025. I think that could be pretty exciting. I think that's 2025 is going to be a fun year for collecting. I was curious to see if they'll get the 25th anniversary celebration started early like they did for the 20th. So thanks for joining, and good night.
Thanks for having us.